With Persia and Israel, we enter a different Axial age pattern. Unlike the lack of concern for a theological god, which was typical of Eastern Asia, the West moved toward monotheism. The idea of a supreme god beyond all was generated in the surrounding kingdoms of Persia. This god, called Ahura Mazda, with the infinite wisdom, or omniscience, is absolute, so that he knows everything before it happens. Not only that, he is all-pervading, he is also changeless, first and foremost, the most perfect being. Zoroaster, the future prophet of Ahura Mazda, was troubled by the lawlessness of his land. He received his calling in the water, and changed his vocation to one that would help him commit to the teaching principles of good, order, and family. At the same time, he added the dimension of monotheistic theology. His followers are called Zoroastrians, named after their prophet. Different from the concept of pre-axial religions, to Zoroaster, people were not the pawns of the gods. The gods did not intervene and fool with the lives of hapless humans. To the cosmic order of Zoroastrians, the universe is an eternal background where a pair of coexistent, divine, and warring principles combat. Yet humans are not passive spectators in this cosmic battle, because each individual is, by his or her own choice, engaged in this cosmic warfare. In order to have an authoritative voice on righteousness, a prophet is often a critic of religious practices and functions as a mouthpiece for a god. Zoroaster became an advocate for the worship of Ahura Mazda, and he wanted Ahura Mazda to be seen as superior to Varuna and other Ahuras. His thinking directed and contributed to the religious environment that would ultimately champion the monotheistic perspective. Zoroaster, the prophet of Ahura Mazda, aspired for the world to return to its original state of existence through his teaching. During his time as a youth, Zoroaster was aware of and troubled by the violence and lawlessness of the land. Because of this, his moral sensitivities seem to have ultimately led him on a quest for deeper truth. He supposedly composed the Gathas, which are 17 hymns that form the core of Zoroastrian's liturgy. In Yasna 8.11 of the Gathas, Zoroaster hoped that the Lord will inspire him to compose poems embodying the teachings that will justify the highest truths and will promote the restoration of the original perfect state of existence. He decided to spread his knowledge for the greater good and became committed to teach men to seek the right Asha. In a reflection of his personality and as a teacher, Zoroaster metaphorically converses with a cow in order to imagine the feelings of a cow being sacrificed. Though the cow cannot speak, Zoroaster does not put words in her mouth, but in her mind. It is her soul that articulates them. The cow then finds herself contemplating in a series of questioning with God and thinking about the purpose of her life. This thought experiment illuminates a practice in the Axial age where the teacher and followers can learn through thinking and engaging in dialogue. Unsatisfied with the Lord's answer that the cow has no appointed protector, Zoroaster intervenes with his experiment and asks God why he has created the cow for it to be slaughtered. If the cow has no divine patron, whom can the Lord suggest as an agent who, guided by good thoughts, will be able to put things right? This conversation reveals Zoroaster's style of debate, which can be translated into his teaching format. He does not take God's unclear conclusion and accepts it, but continuously questions God until he understands. Furthermore, he allows the cow to continue its lamentation without interruption, and demonstrates the emotional intelligence to sympathize with others, even animals, an important quality for a teacher. God then proclaims that just one person, Zoroaster, who listens to the higher power's guidance and composes poems promoting their cause. The cow unfortunately fails to see Zoroaster as her champion, as he lacks influence. Zoroaster declares that this is now his mission to bring about reform, unless his and his followers' devotion now be repaid with the support from the above. Thinking and questioning developed as important tenets of Zoroaster's teaching for his future converts, who became important to his life. Whenever he spoke of an important message in the name of God, the audience was not does not hear prophet's words, but ponders his message. Although Zoroaster hopes to convert everyone, he also does not force others to accept his message, but only acts as a transmitter, similar to other philosophers. They then have the responsibility to choose between good and evil in accordance to the supreme God system of reward and punishment. As a matter of fact, much of one's destiny depends on one's ability, even the cows, to make good or bad choices. Zoroaster claimed to his followers that the prospects of a reward depending on their moral behavior, rather than their social status, or cult-like ritual practices focused on Zoroaster, exemplifies the transformation of the Axial religions. He is concerned with the good conduct of his followers, which would foster a more virtuous society compared to the one at his time. When illustrating why people should choose God and what guidance he should receive, Zoroaster delineated these types of questions he asked the Lord. I ask thee, Lord, about the things that are approaching and will come. I ask this: what punishment is for him who is initiating the dominion for the wrongful one? Unfortunately, Zoroaster struggled from the lack of followers because his views challenged those of the traditionalists. He still called out to God to not only help him teach them, but also to bear the aggression with them when it comes. Similarly to his sympathy for the cow, Zoroaster always seemed to add more responsibility to his job as a human and as a teacher. As a preacher, he cared for the safety of his followers and sought justice from God for the maltreatment of his people. God became the ultimate source and support for upholding righteousness. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. See you in the next podcast.